name is Adam Barnett, and I'm a developing screenwriter and director. In my quest to learn more about these crafts, I've come to realize that analyzing what other writers and directors have done is one of the best ways for me to inform my own methodology, including what not to do when creating my own visual stories. I know that I'm not alone in my journey, and so it's in the spirit of artistic unity that I've created this YouTube series called Screenplay and Analysis. In each episode, I'll explore writing techniques detailed in Syd Field's best-selling book, Screenplay, The Foundations of Screenwriting, as they are applied in a film of my choosing, chapter by chapter, every week. It's my hope that together we can support, share with, and learn from one another, each improving in our own way and at our own pace in the art and craft of cinematic storytelling. So, with that being said, welcome to episode 1 of Screenplay and Analysis. The essential nature of the screenplay, its DNA so to speak, has eluded and frustrated countless writers to the point of surrender, including the likes of the late great novelist F. Scott Fitzgerald. So, what is a screenplay? Is it a written representation of what you see when you go to the movies or tune into Netflix? Or is it deeper than that? This is a question that seems to have an obvious answer until you sit down to write one. Fortunately for me and anyone else watching this, Syd Field, best-selling author of Screenplay, The Foundations of Screenwriting, or Screenplay for short, has some incredible insight to offer. As is often the case in literature, this insight can be summed up succinctly using one sentence. A screenplay is a story told with pictures, in dialogue and description, and placed within the context of dramatic structure. In Chapter 1 of Screenplay, Field expounds upon this assertion, first with the definition of structure as the relationship between the parts and the holdings. If you're curious, Google the definition of its prefix, struck. He goes on to present this relationship or paradigm visually in the following chart. Each successful screenplay has a beginning, middle, and end. Acts 1, 2, and 3 respectively, and 2 major, along with several unlisted minor, plot points that push the story from one act to the next. These acts do not have to be presented intact or in order, but they must all be present to build a screenplay that works, in the same way that a properly functioning car must have an engine, transmission, fuel, oil, a frame, body, and 4 wheels to function properly. Act 1. Setting up dramatic premise. Act 1, the beginning, is the part of the whole used to set up the essential dramatic elements of the protagonist's character, relationships, his, her, or their world, or initial circumstance, and most importantly, his, her, or their dramatic need, or purpose. According to Field, these elements must be clearly established within the first 10 pages of a screenplay, which equates to approximately 10 minutes of screen time. If not informed and invested by this point, the audience, or worse, the script reader, will likely lose interest and turn off the film, or toss the script. In this week's example film, Lost in Translation, a 2003 romantic drama written by SOfia Coppola, we see a graceful execution of establishing setup.
Prior to the opening scene of Lost in Translation, there is a singular shot of Scarlett Johansson, which is now world-renowned. When juxtaposed with this opening scene, the audience knows, whether they are consciously aware of it or not, the basic dramatic premise of the film, which is the development of a unique romance between the young Charlotte, played by Scarlett Johansson, and Bill Murray's character, Bob Harris. Further, the main question posed by the film, does true or perfect love exist, as well as the film's main source of conflict, which is each character's journey to find the answer, are foreshadowed by Bob waking up, confused and perhaps even overwhelmed by the complexity of the foreign, external environment he will navigate in search of his internal desire. In scenes following, we see the general discontent of both characters, lost, so to speak, both in Tokyo City, but also in each of their marriages.
My name is Kawasaki.
Act 2, The Middle, is the dramatic element devoted to exploring the protagonist's character through conflict. During this segment, the main character or characters have to deal with overcoming obstacles placed in front of them by the writer. The choices that a character makes to do this, in pursuit of fulfilling his, her, or their dramatic need or purpose, reveal their character as well as driving the story forward. In the words of Field, all drama is conflict. Without conflict, you have no action. Without action, you have no character. Without character, you have no story. And without story, you have no screenplay.
In Lost in Translation, following plot point 1, shown here as Scarlett Johansson buys Bob a drink, the relationship foreshadowed in Act 1 develops further, with Bob Harris and Charlotte growing closer and the performances of Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray coloring it romantic. In contrast, when the two are not together, they are busy dealing with the stresses and dissatisfaction present in their marriages.
So what are you doing here?
A couple of things. Taking a break from my wife, forgetting my son's birthday, and getting paid $2 million to endorse a whiskey when I could be doing a play somewhere.
Oh.
But the good news is the whiskey works.
The comparison of these two situations, a love that is doomed from the start, not only due to circumstance, but also presumably because of the difference of age in the characters, and tensions at home, creates the conflict that drives the story forward.
Charlotte, hey.
Hey,
Oh my God, how's Tokyo?
it's great here. It's really great. I don't know, I went to this shrine today, and there were these monks and they were chanting, and I didn't feel anything, you know? And I don't know, I even tried Ikebana, and John is using these hair products. I don't know who I married.
Oh, can you wait a second? Just hold on, I'll be right back.
Okay, sure.
Sorry. What were you saying?
Nothing, it's okay. I'll call you later, okay?
Okay, have the best time, you know? Just call me when you get back, okay? Bye.
Bye.
Love you.
The complexity of this conflict is heightened even more when at plot point 2, Bob sleeps with the nameless jazz singer from the bar and Charlotte finds out. This plot point brings into question the notion that such a thing as a perfect relationship even exists, a question that was explored just a few scenes prior as Charlotte and Bob discuss marriage while lying next to one another in bed.
I'm stuck. Does it get easier?
No. Yes. It gets easier.
Oh, yeah? Look at you.
Thanks. And the more you know who you are and what you want, the less you let things upset you.
Yeah. I just don't know what I'm supposed to be.
Act 3, The End, builds conflict to the point of resolution. Does your main character live or die? Succeed or fail? Get married or not? Escape safely or not? what I gathered in my own interpretation of the function of Act 3 is that the final shot or scene of a film, the literal end, should answer, ask, or assert. Within these guidelines are limitless possibilities for delivering a message to an audience, or better yet, having an audience discover meanings of their own. The end of Lost in Translation is probably my favorite of any film that I've seen in my recent memory. This is because the message of the film is left entirely up to the viewer's interpretation and is subject to their own bias. In my eyes, this allows the complex and varied nature of individual truths about love and its meanings and expressions to be debated, discussed, and revealed by the audience themselves. Rather than trying to define something that is so unique to each individual's experience, Coppola leaves the ending open, yet resolved. The exact nature of that resolution, however, is left up to the viewer to determine.
Hey, hold on here. Let me out. Thank you. Hey, you.
If you haven't already, I'd highly recommend watching Lost in Translation. It's not only a great film, but also a great study in how to write a screenplay. And that's it for episode 1 of Screenplay and Analysis.